Have you ever noticed it? That thick, suffocating silence that creeps in when you're alone? It's not the peaceful quiet people talk about when they romanticize solitude. No, it's heavier than that. It's a silence that feels like it's pushing down on you, swallowing you whole. It's the kind of silence that forces you to confront things you've been running from. The kind that drags you into the dark corners of your own mind. Most people can't handle it. They run to noise, to distractions, to people, anything to drown out that suffocating quiet. They want to fill the void, avoid it at all costs, because that silence, it's terrifying. But you've felt it. You've lived with it. You've learned that the silence doesn't disappear when the noise stops. It lingers, waiting for you. Let's be real. Being alone is one of the hardest battles you'll ever fight. It strips away the distractions, leaving you with nothing but yourself. And that's where the true battle begins. Because it's not the world outside that you're up against, it's you. It's always been you. When everyone's gone, when there's no one to impress, no one to lean on, no one to blame, what are you left with? You. Just you and that silence. And the truth is, most people don't like what they find in those moments. They don't want to face the doubts, the insecurities, the fears. So they run. They hide. But not you. You've been abandoned. You've been forgotten. You've been left in that silence. And while the rest of the world thinks it's breaking you, you're still standing. You're still breathing. That silence they fear, it's becoming your strength. People talk about loneliness like it's this thing that should be avoided at all costs. Don't be alone, they say, as if being with others automatically cures the emptiness inside. But you've learned the hard way that being surrounded by people can sometimes feel lonelier than standing on your own. The smiles, the empty conversations, the fake concern, it doesn't fill the void, it only deepens it. So you withdrew. You stepped away from the noise, away from the pretenders, away from the lies. And what did you find? A world that doesn't care, a world that moves on without you. You realized that the people who said they'd be there weren't. The ones who promised to stay left. And in that crushing realization, you understood something they'll never grasp. The silence doesn't lie. In that silence, there are no masks, there are no excuses, there's no pretending. It's just raw, brutal honesty. And yes, it hurts. It tears at you. It forces you to confront things you've buried so deep, you almost forgot they existed. But it also shows you something else. It shows you your strength. Because in that silence, when the world is no longer looking, when the distractions are gone, that's when you realize you're still here. You're still fighting. You're still alive. And that silence, it's not your enemy. It's your companion. You see, most people are terrified of being alone because they're terrified of themselves. They're scared of what they'll find when there's no one else to project onto, when there's no one else to blame. But you've faced that fear head on. You've walked into the darkness willingly. And what did you find? You found that you're stronger than you ever knew. That silence has taught you more about yourself than any conversation, any friendship, any relationship ever could. It's taught you that you don't need anyone's approval. You don't need anyone's validation. You don't need anyone to save you. Because in the end, the only person who can truly save you is you. Let's be honest, the world is full of noise. People talk just to fill the space, to avoid the uncomfortable quiet that reveals their weaknesses. They surround themselves with others because they can't bear to be alone with their thoughts. But you've learned to thrive in that quiet. You've learned to draw strength from it. The silence doesn't judge. It doesn't pity. It doesn't offer false comfort. It just is. And in that simplicity, you found clarity. You found purpose. You found yourself. People will never understand the power of being alone until they've lived it, until they've faced the silence and come out on the other side. They'll never understand the strength it takes to stand in that void and keep moving forward. But you do. You've been there. You've lived it. And now that silence, it's your weapon. There's a saying that goes, it's not the strongest that survive, but the ones who adapt. And you've adapted to something most people never will. You've adapted to solitude. You've adapted to the silence. And because of that, you're stronger than you've ever been. Don't get me wrong, being alone doesn't mean you don't feel the pain, the longing, the hurt. You do. You feel it deeply. But instead of running from it, you've learned to sit with it. You've learned to let it wash over you, to feel every ounce of it and still keep going. Because that's what it means to be truly strong. The world wants you to believe that you need others to be whole, that you need their approval, their affection, their presence to be complete. But you know the truth now. You know that the only person who can truly define you is you. So when the silence comes, when the world falls away, and it's just you in that quiet space, remember this. You've been here before, you've faced this silence, and you've come out stronger. And the next time it comes, you'll be ready. You'll embrace it because you know that in that silence lies your power. The silence isn't your enemy. It's not something to be feared. It's the place where you become who you're meant to be. It's where you strip away the lies, the distractions, the illusions, and face the raw, unfiltered truth. And that truth? It's what sets you free. So, the next time you feel alone, the next time the silence creeps in, don't run from it. Don't hide. Face it. Embrace it. Let it show you who you really are. Because in that silence, in that stillness, lies the strength you've been searching for all along. And remember this, you are never truly alone. Not as long as you have yourself. Not as long as you have that silence to guide you. Because in the end, the silence doesn't lie. And neither do you. By the way, if you want to level up in life, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel.